regional championships.
Well, Pokemon trainers, let's get loud for Masters top 4 between Victor and Joan. Sneasler and Baxcalibur straight out of the blocks here for Joan versus the Dragonite Incineroar combination of Victor Medina.
Okay, I really like this lead, kind of from both ends, actually. Yeah, Intimidate is really effective versus both the Sneasler and that Baxcalibur, so you're not needing to worry just quite as much if you're Victor versus these two physical attackers. The Dragonite is obviously still a little bit threatened. Even if it was to Terra out of that Dragon typing into the Flying typing, it's still weak to those ice moves from the Baxcalibur as well. So it's probably wants to go on the back foot a little bit and maybe switch around or maybe try and go for that Terra if it wants to. And Incineroar's also staring down at close combat, honestly, but a Terra Ghost could be quite timely right now.
Yes, a lot of offensive pressure on Joan's side, but Medina has the utility to be able to work around it. Step 1, bring this Alolan Ninetales on the field. Get the Dragonite out of danger. It sets the snow onto the field as well. This will give a defense boost not only to the Alolan Ninetales, but also to that opposing Baxcalibur. You've got to bear that in mind. Baxcalibur is going to go for the Icicle Spear, and this is a fantastic adjustment by Victor, bringing in a Pokemon that isn't going to mind taking that damage at all. Look at it. It can take it all day long, David.
Yeah, it can so easily. Good thing Joan didn't go for the Scale Shot. That would have been, like, even worse at this point as well. Would have done absolutely 0 damage here. And that chip could be quite necessary going into future turns here. So we can see Victor choosing to lock in the Moonblast versus that Baxcalibur. And so with super effective damage, that's going to do a lot. And the snow only boosts its physical defense, not that special defense. But what are you going to do about this Sneasler, right? It's close combat into Incineroar looks very strong. Diaclaw into Ninetales looks really strong right now. And I don't know if either of these Pokemon have the bulk to be able to survive those attacks. Let's see.
Oh, honestly,
wow.
That Intimidate really paying off, being able to hang on here as Ninetales goes for the Blizzard. Not going to be able to get any KOs here as the Scale Shot is now going to be sent into the non-Fairy type on the field. And this will do a significant chunk to that Incineroar. And as you mentioned earlier, I think all the chips stacking up could be detrimental in this match. There's a lot of damage being dealt across the field.
It certainly is. And how many shots is that? That was all 5 hits as well. And a 2-hit KO on an Incineroar is nothing to shake a stick out there. And there's that speed boost, which will likely make it outspeed this Ninetales going into the following turn. But first, that parting shot into the Caesar, making it even weaker at this point. And Victor is able to get in something a little bit safer now.
I really like this parting shot. Not only do you get the Incineroar out of the way of a potential close combat, but you weaken the offensive pressure that Sneasler has for that Alolan Ninetales. We saw the Diaclaw come through. It did a significant chunk of damage, but I think now it's not going to be putting the Ninetales in risk of being KO'd. The double hop, however, that could come through from that Baxcalibur, if you want to go for the Icicle Spear again, even though it doesn't do a lot of damage, the double up might be enough to get rid of the Ninetales.
Yeah, exactly. It's very low right now, and so it's a great way to just pile on the offense. And at that moment, even though Victor seems to be getting away with sending in resists to a lot of these attacks, Joan still just has his first 2 Pokemon on the field, doing quite a lot of damage at the moment. So he's probably feeling a little bit comfortable right now, especially as Victor's kind of forced to reveal more of his Pokemon at this point. But he still hasn't committed to Terra yet, so he still has that going for him currently. And a Kingambit switch-in is really nice if you want to start threatening those Sucker Punches.
But Victor has taken a lot of damage here at this point, and although Joan is keeping these 2 Pokemon on the field, it means there's 2 very healthy ones in the back, and you're getting the damage on the board, forcing Victor to make these defensive plays, which means he's not attacking.
So let's see how this turn plays out here. This Sneasler with those Diaclaws is looking really strong into a lot of what Victor has to offer here, especially if that Incineroar goes for that Terra Ghost. And that means a lot of paralyses or sleeps or poisons that could come out from this Pokemon. And it is the Unburden, interestingly, on Sneasler's end, and that is not going to be activated thanks to that Focus Sash not really coming into play in this game yet.
Well, Baxcalibur are going to have to take a little bit of damage from this Kingambit that Victor Medina played with so perfectly in his previous round. You can see the Icicle Spears coming through, and this is what we were saying. It guarantees that the Alolan Ninetales will be in range of whatever the Sneasler wants to throw its way. In fact, it doesn't even matter. It's able to get the KO. Honestly, being able to have that speed advantage just put the Baxcalibur right in the driving seat here.
That was really close. One of those Scale Shots did 4 damage.
Oh.
Sorry, no, not so 8 damage. And the Ninetales had 9 health on that final 5th shot. So it might have actually been able to survive that turn, but it was the roll of the individual hits of that Scale Shot that enabled that Ninetales to go down that turn, which otherwise would have gotten off on a huge attack that turn. But Sneasler now is able to get a coaching off on this Baxcalibur, so it's looking like almost indestructible at this point, although very low health, and there's not a lot of way to stop priority moves.
Hey, it sounds like it wasn't just the loaded dice, it was the lucky dice as well for that Baxcalibur being able to get the KO on that Ninetales. Sneasler once again in a prime position though. It's gone for that coaching, it's kind of done its supportive role. And Baxcalibur, yes, it's speedy, and now it's also offensively very threatening into this Dragonite. Those Icicle Spears will come through thick and fast, and the Sneasler now in a position where it can always try and go for that close combat. But Kingambit has one more trick up the sleeve. It has that Sucker Punch, it has that priority. It could possibly get the KO on this Baxcalibur, but I think it might struggle against Sneasler.
So there's the protection on the Sneasler. Joan trying to call for where Victor is targeting this turn, and he does catch the extreme speed, but I think we may have seen a cheeky Sucker Punch coming out from Victor into this Baxcalibur. But first, the Ice Shard into the Dragonite, doing a ton of damage through that multiscale.
That is a multi-scale Dragonite, and it wasn't broken. That does so much damage.
And the counter cleave actually goes into the Sneasler. There was no target into that Baxcalibur. Joan calling that turn absolutely perfectly. Literally, either attack could have gone into Baxcalibur. It would have gone down. But Victor obviously predicting the protect at this point, and the Sneasler to be the one that switches out. But instead, Baxcalibur gets an absolute free attack on this Dragonite and now threatens a one-hit KO with another Ice Shard.
Really like that play there from Joan, playing a bit defensively on the Sneasler, but it's what's got him this opening with the Baxcalibur. You do still have to worry about the potential Sucker Punch coming through there. Kingambit still has that option, and that's something Baxcalibur doesn't want to take at all. But I think another Ice Shard, if you can get that priority with the speed, because we know Baxcalibur's nice and speedy at the moment, that can take Dragonite out of the game.
And now that Baxcalibur does go for the protect this time. So does Joan feel like Victor's maybe been conditioned to target into that slot? Yes, I think he has. An amazing play by Joan here. Absolutely in Victor's head right now. And there's the close combat. It's at -2, I believe. So
but
it goes straight into that Kingambit. There's so much damage still. Kingambit absolutely down and out.
Yeah, Kingambit with its typing there, not really helping it out. 4 times super effective fighting type damage coming its way as the snow leaves the field. Incineroar can join now, throw down and intimidate, but it's looking very, very dicey for Victor. The fact that you're down to your last 2 remaining Pokemon and there are still all 4 2 yet unseen on Joan's side.
Yeah, the new Sneasler Dragapult is a lot chillier and a lot cooler than the Baxcalibur Sneasler that we see right here. So it's so offensively oppressive here, but also Joan has also been playing this obviously very, very well. It's not just the 2 Pokemon, it's the player behind these Pokemon too that are really paying off here. So it is the Terra that is coming out instead.
Yes, Terrestrialization bringing it to the field for this Baxcalibur that really has been the superstar of this game 1. It's now going to become a ghost type as well. Spooky outfit for it in the spooky season we've got going on this weekend, but it also does give it that nice little bit of coverage to an extreme speed.
Extreme speed to take out that Sneasler. Trying to catch it from Joan into that Baxcalibur, but it wasn't to be in that slot. And instead the Dragonite does end up going down to this Icicle Spear.
I mean, the Ghost Terrestrialization there is perfect. You don't have to worry about Fake Out, you don't have to worry about the extreme speed. You've already got the speed boosts from that scale shot previously, so you know that you're going to be able to get the edge and get the KO on this Dragonite. And now, even though Incineroar can clean up, Joan has 2 remaining Pokemon in the back. Whatever they're going to be, the 2v1 against an Incineroar that doesn't really have a huge amount of utility, I feel like Joan has the pieces to be able to take this game.
Yeah, I think so. Unless we get Flare Bits, burns, and
hey, I've said it before.
Crits,
I said it with Indeedee and I got caught out, so I'm actually a little scared with what I'm saying right now.
True, okay, yeah. Let's just be careful then. But at least Victor, having probably lost this game 1, can see the final 2 Pokemon that Joan has brought to this match. So getting a little bit of an insight into the way that Joan wants to play this set, bringing that Volcarona and the Kingambit in the back as well. So maybe feeling like he needs to kind of switch things around a little bit more. Maybe bringing that Garchomp looks pretty good, honestly, into this matchup too. If you can avoid those Ice-type attacks with that Terra Steel that Victor has, then it might be looking very solid into that Kingambit and hitting super effective into that Baxcalibur too.
Yeah, I like the Terra Steel Garchomp. I think it's a really good option to counter that opposing Baxcalibur. You have to commit to the Terrestrialization there. Victor throwing in the...
From the snow there, preventing from Victor knowing if he could get KOs or not.
Well, Volcarona we got to see at the very end of game 1, but we didn't get to see it do anything, but it was raring to go, so it's in the lead here with the Sneasler for Joan, and Victor Medina has gone for Dragonite and Incineroar.
This Volcarona is so interesting. It's like, usually you go, oh, I don't know, should I go support Volcarona, Will-O-Wisp, Rage Powder, or should I go the Quiver Dance set? Joan just says, why not both? It's got Quiver Dance and it's got Rage Powder, which is incredibly useful for a lot of teams. And this is the Terra Fairy Terra Blast Volcarona as well, which is really strong into the double dragon that Victor has been bringing to this tournament here. So I'm not surprised to see it here as well. However, the Sneasler doesn't have Fake Out, so it can't actually support in this turn directly, but a coaching into that Volcarona could be quite interesting to get a defense boost at the very least for these two physical attackers.
Sneasler leaves itself open to a potential fake out from the Incineroar, though. Volcarona also rocking that Covert Cloak means that it cannot be flinched from a fake out, so it cannot be the target there. Instead, Sneasler leaving itself vulnerable, and it could even then have its focus sash broken. But we're in top 4, we're bringing the Sparkles to the stage. It's going to be a flying Dragonite here as well.
So yeah, offering that super effective damage into the Volcarona, but it has just Terrasilize away from that weakness. And yeah, with the coaching coming out here, no fake out into that Sneasler slot from this Incineroar like in game 1 either. So it's able to get it straight off. Quiver Dance immediately after as well, showing its natural speed in that Dragonite. Good information for any future games as well, as now we're going to see the follow-up attacks.
Volcarona is primed and ready to go, but what has Victor Medina gone for? The Flying Terra Blast targeting down into that slot. It is going to do a significant chunk of damage. It's a one-hit KO, critical hit.
Another critical hit in our top cut set here at Day 2 of the Regional Championships. It is seriously hotting up here. These Pokemon really love their trainers right now. Finding that weak point in that Volcarona, taking it out right through those defense boosts.
That's how you make a comeback, being able to get rid of the key strategy that Joan was going for.
Oh, and the burn!
Oh, that even comes through. There is no messing around for Victor Medina. He wants to be going into that Grand Finals and is staking his claim to try and level out the score. This is about as good as a turn 1 gets.
Some could say just giving yourself a name gives you an advantage here, and Victor certainly is living up to that right now. And so going into the next turn, it's looking so strong. Sneasler has its damage output so weakened, but Baxcalibur is here. Joan's signature Pokemon, you could almost say here, did so well to take out so many of Victor's Pokemon, and here it is again, still looking very strong. Any Flare Blitzes into that slot is going to give it a thermal exchange boost. You can't really do that. And if you're going to knock off, then that still has to happen after the Baxcalibur's already moved. So if Baxcalibur can start maybe setting up a scale shot, start getting that damage rolling a little bit, maybe directly target around that Dragonite, whether it's going to protect or not, Joan still definitely has a shot.
Yeah, we need to not get ahead of ourselves here. That was a fantastic turn 1 for Predictor, but now that Baxcalibur is on the field and committing your Terra to your Dragonite means even if there was a guard jump, you couldn't have that steel typing in there. The Icicle Spear is going to come down onto the Dragonite. It's still going to take 2 times super effective damage as it is a flying type, and it looks like this Baxcalibur is going to be able to clean up. Interestingly enough, opting to get the KO here instead of maybe going for a scale shot into the opposing Incineroar just to be able to get that speed up for later, I think just shows that Joan wants rid of that Dragonite.
Yeah, 100%. So a really good target there. That Dragonite could have easily just protected on that turn, but it doesn't. Perhaps Victor, knowing that he's kind of in the driver's seat, he's got the advantage, he doesn't want to throw it away and say protect Dragonite and just to get a double up into that Incineroar and just lose it instantly. At least this way he kind of knows, all right, you either get my Dragonite down or you get my Incineroar down at this point, but at least then you get something off either way into this turn. But good job on Joan to kind of capitalize off of that scenario and take the KO when he can.
And I like the parting shot as well. You obviously reduce the offensive pressure that the opposing Baxcalibur has. You can bring the Incineroar right back in, throw another Intimidate down, throw some more fake out pressure out on the field. You have effectively neutralized that Sneasler as well, thanks to the burn, so you don't have to worry as much about these close combats. And the Alolan Ninetales now on the field in a position to even clean up against that Sneasler. You could always go for that Blizzard and get some damage on the board, but you could also go for that Moonblast, and I'd always be tempted to go for the Moonblast into Baxcalibur and just get damage on the field. Ignore Sneasler, it's not doing anything right now. The double up could be key.
Yeah, and the Terra is already spent on the Volcarona as well.
Yes.
So it's a really nice option to kind of lock into it. It's really reliable too. And Rillaboom's actually coming in here at the moment. So actually, an Ice move may have been the play here, but Joan, like switching up the Pokemon that he's brought here, seems to have really maybe caught Victor off guard a little bit here, and straight to the fake out too.
Yes, interestingly enough, not slowing down this Baxcalibur.
Oh!
Moonblast does it though, it slows it completely in its tracks. It is gone, you've got rid of that threat, Victor.
An absolutely massively powerful attack as well, coming from that Ninetales, which has like very similar like offensive stats to Talonflame, which isn't very much at all. But when you're dealing with the choice specs and those same type attack bonuses and just generally powerful moves, suddenly you can turn any sort of Pokemon into a powerhouse when you want to.
Honestly, Ninetales is having a great time right now. There's no potential fake out from the Sneasler. Yes, there is, I suppose, from that Rillaboom, but at the same time, Alolan Ninetales can go for a Blizzard here with the guaranteed accuracy in the snow and just be able to deal destruction. Sneasler can go for a Dial Claw all it wants. It is burned, unless a secondary effect comes through, which it does not. Ninetales is going to be in the prime position to get another knockout.
Yep, Moonblast, another knockout there, and Rillaboom is standing with its back up against the wall in this game 2 of our semi-finals here. Ninetales also just healing up a little bit more, and because of the snow, it's going to make it very physically bulky versus all of the options that this Rillaboom has here. So yeah, what you can do is switch out Ninetales so you can switch it back in, lock into an Ice-type attack to be dealing even more damage to this Rillaboom too.
Yeah, Rillaboom completely pinned in, the battle is cancelled, we're going to a game.
But then you'd probably need to commit the Terra Water as well. But let's see, is it the same thing again? No, it's the King Gambit setup this time.
Love to see it. It's shaken up by both our trainers here. Alolan Ninetales, Incineroar, but the King Gambit on Joan's side is going to catch that with its Defiant.
Yes, an amazing catch, actually. Like, King Gambit is exactly what you want for this lead. So Joan kind of calling the leads really nicely in all 3 games at this moment. So this King Gambit on Joan's side is that Swords Dance set with those safety goggles to really boost up those Dark-type attacks. So still not doing a lot of damage to the Ninetales, but it definitely has the freedom to start setting them up.
Yeah, Alolan Ninetales doesn't have to worry about an Iron Head potentially, but this King Gambit in a prime position to maybe get set up. Instead, the double protect from the potential fake out, a really solid, safe, and consistent play from Joan. Incineroar was targeting down into that opposing Sneasler, trying to potentially break that Focus Sash, but to no avail. Going into this next turn as well, you now have the opportunity, if you are that King Gambit, to either set up or just try and get some damage on the board. You have the boost. I don't really know what the Alolan Ninetales is doing to you at this point.
Yeah, not a whole lot, really. However, the King Gambit is sort of forced to kind of go for the Terra here because from the Incineroar's Flare Blitz. And so if you're Terra-ing out of that Seal typing into the pure Dark typing, then Blizzard is going to suddenly then hit a little bit harder at this point too. But with a coaching, as you mentioned as well, then the King Gambit might start to get out of range of, or needing to be scared of that Flare Blitz in the first place.
Well, it's actually the Sucker Punch straight away on the Ninetales, maybe allowing the Diaclaw to come through and get the knockout, but we've seen before it's underwhelming once an Intimidate is in play, and Ninetales is slowed down in the snow as well, thanks to that paralysis.
Oh!
It is completely stuck.
So Joan getting a little bit of his own back there after that great game 2 with the power into full power from Sneasler, doing what Sneasler does best on the majority of our teams here in day 2.
This time no burn as well coming through on the Flare Blitz. Sneasler gets away with that, having dealt a bit of retaliation with the paralysis. But now, again, you're in this position, King Gambit can just go for another Sucker Punch. Could that be in range of the Ninetales?
Yeah, that's a great question. Like, it should do a similar amount of damage into the next turn, but is the Ninetales as much of a threat anymore as well is also the question here, because the Focus Sash is still preserved on that Sneasler. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, Ninetales is down and out for the count here, really not being able to get anything effectively done in this match, leaving Victor at 3 Pokemon so early on. Sneasler actually goes for the close combat as well into the Incineroar. It's not able to get the knockout though. Again, Intimidate coming through, and now the defense drops coming through on this Sneasler, leaving it incredibly vulnerable as Incineroar goes for the Flare Blitz, but it will go into that King Gambit. It's not going to be able to get the knockout. So much damage being dealt out here, but 2 Pokemon just hanging on.
So yeah, we've got the chip down on that Sneasler. The King Gambit's also chipped down quite nicely too. But Victor only has 2 Pokemon left versus Joan 6. It's looking very much like a game 1 yet again. Except Victor needs to try and go into the driver's seat right now. This King Gambit was the Swords Dance set, then we may be looking at a slightly better position, but the King Gambit is the Assault Vest instead on Victor's end. So there's no kind of setup to kind of go around. So Joan isn't going to be punished too hard by playing defensive and protecting.
Yes, and I like this play here, just going for the extreme speed. You've had your defenses dropped by the close combat previously, so this was going to be the knockout needed. As the King Gambit on Joan's side can go for that Cowtown Cleave. Does a significant chunk to the Dragonite, also breaks that multi-scale, but the low kick on Victor's side, almost saying like anything you can do, I can do better, I can get a knockout instead.
So we've gone from 4-4 to 4-2 to 2-2.
Hey, this is ill, right? This is what we're doing.
Exactly. And so does that mean this turn we're just going to get a double knockout into the next turn? I don't know. But Baxcalibur is here, and therefore anything is possible.
Oh, do you know what's also a little bit interesting is you've got the Baxcalibur that can deal super effective damage to the Dragonite, and the Volcarona that can deal with this King Gambit so beautifully. This could be a very detrimental spot for Victor. He's going to have to think carefully about the speed tiers here and how they interact.
Yeah, 100%. And because the Ninetales has been brought to the match from Victor, this Baxcalibur has so much defensive boost behind it as well. So not really feeling the pressure at all to kind of like Terror or anything like that because it's got that natural bulk to it. The question I want to ask though, is it enough to kind of survive a double up? And there's actually the Protect.
Yes, defensive play from Joan here, wanting to keep the Dragon on his side protected, and it's going to be matched by the protection of the Dragon type on Victor's side. Volcarona just goes straight away for a Heat Wave here, obviously not going to connect into Dragonite, but can it find its mark on its true intended target with that King Gambit? It looks like another one isn't going to be able to get the knockout. No detrimental effects coming through as the Kowtow cleave, revealing that it will actually get the 2-hit KO if it's able to get another one in this match.
So we have the last turn of Snow now having run out. The Baxcalibur a little bit more vulnerable now to any further attacks this time. And as we saw before, the Volcarona does actually naturally outspeed the Dragonite on Victor's end. So we know it's going to be able to get an attack off before Extreme Speed, for instance, comes out too. But Victor has those double priority attacks here, which he can really make the most of. Joan's Volcarona can't protect, but if it can get off a cheeky Rage Powder, that would redirect any sort of sucker punches away. But then Baxcalibur can't deal with it at the same time either. So it kind of locks down King Gambit and Volcarona in that sort of position. So maybe a terrible kind of switch things up a little bit here, Lou.
Yeah, ending things in style. On the broadcast here, we're going to see the Fairy Terrestrialization come through from the Volcarona. Speaking of priority on Victor's side, however, Joan has the utility to go for something like the Ice Shard on that Baxcalibur as well into the Broken Mortar Scale of that Dragonite. It could be detrimental, but that is why we still have Terrestrialization in play for both of our trainers. It's going to be on that Dragonite, so it would still be dealing super effective damage, but at least it wouldn't be 4 times effective.
So the Terror Blast is going to be very effective into either of these targets right now. It's the biggest damaging move that Victor has at the moment. But it's the Extreme Speed coming out instead.
Not enough.
The Volcarona, not enough indeed. Flame Body Proc, not yet.
Ice Shard, however, is not enough either to be able to get the KO on this Dragonite. A Sucker Punch priority left, right, and center gets the KO. It's now Baxcalibur against both of these Pokemon on Victor's side. It has all its HP remaining, however. Is it going to be enough?
Amazing play from Victor there, just to double down real hard into that slot. And the King Gambit now, it's a Steel type. This Baxcalibur has Dragon and Ice moves only, so it's definitely not going to be doing very much damage at all. At this point, Victor can just lock into Extreme Speed and a reliable move such as that Iron Head to potentially close this out. Barring critical hits potentially to happen this time, it's looking real strong, but Baxcalibur is a bulky Pokemon.
Yeah, Dragonite goes through the Extreme Speed, does about 1/5 of damage there onto Baxcalibur that can go for the Icicle Spear. Now, it's not doing a huge amount of damage. You maybe need a few critical hits in here, and that's asking for a lot. King Gambit is going to be able to hang on and retaliate with that Iron Head that we know can deal a huge amount of damage.
Yeah, and there it is, that Iron Head to finish off that Baxcalibur. There it is, yes! Victor Medina takes it and advances to the final of the Lille Regional Championships. What in style!
Oh my goodness, what a set. In style indeed, David. The way that Victor Medina was able to